name's Spivey, and I picked the Winter War. I chose to research the Winter War because it was an important historical conflict that had a major impact on World War II, and it changed the way people thought of the Soviets and the Finland people. The Winter War connects to Unit 7 Global Conflict. The Winter War connects to it because it shows how global powers were being fought for territory and influence. The question I decided to pick was, why did the invasion of the Soviet Union by the Finnish army take so long, and what were the effects? I picked this question because I thought it was interesting how a smaller country like Finland was able to resist a much larger area like the Soviet Union. I also wanted to learn how the war affected the aftermath of the Soviet Union and for the Finland people. The Soviets wanted Finland to give up islands in the Gulf of Finland and allow a naval base on the Hanko Peninsula. After using a fake border incident as an excuse to invade, the Red Army attacked with about 1 million more troops than Finland had. The terrain in the Winter War really helped Finland because they had very dense forest, freezing temperatures, and snowy landscape, and it also made it really difficult for the Soviet troops to move in and invade. Finnish soldiers blended into the snow with white camouflage suits, while the Soviet troops wore khaki uniforms and were very visible. The Finnish army was very well led, and they knew the terrain very well, which gave them a huge advantage against the Soviet Union because they were in their off territory. The Red Army was very poorly prepared for the terrain and struggled early in the war. However, the Soviets adapted by reorganizing their forces and bringing in more modern equipment, which gave them a massive advantage because they already had it in troops and tanks, and eventually they were able to get the upper hand in the war. However, for the Finnish army, they had way better tactics. They used things including logs, crowbars, and Molotov cocktails to stop or destroy Soviet tanks. They also used white camouflage suits and sometimes stayed hidden in the snow for days to hold positions. While the Red Army had stronger tanks, artillery, and air support, the Finnish army still had a bunch of advantages against them. The Red Army had many weaknesses that helped Finland resist for a long time. Soviet supplies like food, clothing, and ammunition were very poorly managed, and they also had many experienced officers that were lost due to Stalin's purges in the 1930s. They also underestimated the Finnish army because they were expecting a quick victory, which made them very unprepared for the war. The Red Army suffered over 300,000 casualties, compared to only 65,000 for the Finnish army in the Winter War. Finland had about 25,904 people that were killed or missing, and 43,557 that were wounded. On the top picture, you can see a real picture where a Soviet spy is about to be executed from during the war. And at the bottom, you can see Russian bodies that are found at the remains of the war. The Winter War ended with Finland being first to sign the Treaty of Moscow, which gave 11% of its territory to the Soviet Union. Despite their losses, Finland gained worldwide respect for its strong resistance and refusal to surrender to the Soviet Union during the war. However, the effects for the Soviet Union weren't that good. The Winter War raised questions with the Soviet Union's relationships with its neighbors, and it led to the USSR, which is basically the Soviet Union, being expelled from the League of Nations. It also weakened Soviets' trust internationally and contributed to later tensions with Germany, and they ended up getting invaded and ending their non aggression agreement. Here is my conclusion. The Winter War of the invasion of the Soviet Union to the Finnish army took a long time due to many factors. Some of these factors include its environment, leadership, and military tactics, effective against a larger army. Finland's difficult terrain and freezing winter conditions gave the Finnish army a huge defensive advantage, while Soviet troops struggled to adapt to its forest, deep snow, and temperatures reaching -45 Fahrenheit. At the same time, the Finnish army used tactics like camouflage, skiing, and how they destroyed tanks. The Red Army was poorly led due to weak leadership, training, and were very disorganized. These factors made it where Finland was able to resist from the Soviet Union for months with significant loss from both sides, but gained worldwide respect, while the Soviet Union was expelled from the League of Nations and got invaded by Germany. And here are the sources I used for my project.